You're scrolling through Instagram at 2 a.m. again, watching your ex post photos with their new partner, and that familiar ache hits your chest. Your friends keep asking when you're going to settle down, your parents drop hints about grandchildren, and every rom-com makes you feel like you're failing at life because you don't want the white picket fence dream. But what if I told you that a 19th century German philosopher already figured out why you feel so trapped? And his solution is more radical than anything you've ever considered. Max Stirner would look at your relationship anxiety and laugh. Not because he's cruel, but because he saw through something most people never realize. Society has been programming your desires since birth, and you've been mistaken someone else's dreams for your own. Picture this. You're 5 years old, playing with dolls or action figures, and already the adults around you are planting seeds. Oh, she's going to be such a good mommy someday. He's going to make some girl very happy. Before you can even tie your shoes, society starts writing your romantic script. Fast forward 20 years, and you're wondering why nothing feels quite right, why every relationship feels like you're wearing clothes that don't fit. Stirner called this the spook, these invisible ideas that haunt us, control us, make us dance to music we never chose to hear, and relationship expectations. They're the biggest spook of all. Here's where it gets interesting, and this might sting a little. Every time you've felt guilty for not wanting marriage, every moment you've questioned why you need to find the one. Every instance you've felt broken for preferring casual connections or choosing to be alone. That wasn't your authentic self speaking. That was society's programming running its course. But wait, there's more. Stirner didn't just identify the problem. He offered something most philosophers never dare to: complete liberation. He said you are the only authority over your own existence. Not your parents, not your culture, not even your friends who mean well. You, just you. Imagine walking into a relationship not because you're supposed to, not because biological clocks are ticking, not because society expects it, but because in that moment, with that person, you genuinely want to. Imagine the relief of admitting you might want multiple partners, or no partners, or relationships that last 3 months instead of 30 years, and feeling zero guilt about it. This is where most people panic. But what about commitment? What about building something meaningful? What about growing old together? And here's Stirner's brutal honesty. Those might not be your actual desires. They might just be beautiful lies you've been told so many times you've forgotten they re-not your own thoughts. Let me share something personal that'll illustrate this perfectly. Sarah, a 28-year-old lawyer, spent 3 years in therapy trying to figure out why she kept sabotaging long-term relationships. Every time things got serious, she'd find reasons to leave. Her therapist suggested commitment issues, fear of intimacy, daddy problems. But what if Sarah wasn't broken? What if Sarah's authentic self simply didn't want traditional commitment? And the only thing wrong was that she'd been taught to want something that made her miserable. When Sarah stopped trying to fix herself and started listening to herself, something magical happened. She designed relationships on her own terms. Sometimes that meant 6-month connections with clear endpoints. Sometimes it meant deep friendships with physical intimacy, but no romantic labels. Sometimes it meant being completely alone and loving it. For the first time in her adult life, Sarah felt free. But here's the plot twist that changes everything. Stirner isn't advocating for chaos or selfishness. He's advocating for authenticity so radical it scares people. When you stop performing relationships for society's approval, when you stop checking boxes on someone else's list, you discover what you actually want, and what you actually want might surprise you. Maybe you discover you want deep, committed love, but without legal marriage. Maybe you realize you're genuinely polyamorous, not just afraid of commitment. Maybe you find out you want partnership, but not cohabitation, or you want to share a life, but not finances. Or you want emotional intimacy, but physical independence. The beautiful irony is that when you stop trying to want what you're supposed to want, you often end up creating relationships that are more fulfilling than anything society's script could have given you. Now here's where this gets really dangerous for the status quo, and why they don't teach this in school. If everyone started designing their own relationships, entire industries would collapse. The wedding industry, the divorce industry, the couples therapy industry built on fixing relationships that were never authentic to begin with. Even the self-help industry that profits from your romantic insecurities would lose its power. Stirner saw this coming. He knew that true individual liberation threatens every institution that depends on your compliance. Religion needs you to follow its rules about love. Capitalism needs you to buy products that promise romantic success. Even psychology often needs you to believe your relationship problems are medical conditions requiring professional intervention. But what if your relationship problems aren't problems at all? What if they read just signs that you read trying to force yourself into a shape that doesn't fit? Here's the practical part that'll change how you approach dating forever. Instead of asking, "What does a good relationship look like?" start asking, "What do I actually enjoy?" instead of "How do I make this work?" Ask, "Do I want this to work?" instead of "What's wrong with me?" Try, "What's wrong with this expectation?" The most liberating question Stirner would ask about your love life is this, if no one would ever know. If society had no opinion, if your parents couldn't judge, and your friends couldn't gossip, what would you actually choose? That honest answer you're probably afraid to admit, even to yourself, that's your authentic relationship goal. Everything else is just noise. But here's the final twist that makes this philosophy so powerful. When you start living authentically, you attract people who are also questioning the script. You stop settling for relationships built on mutual compromise and start creating connections based on genuine desire. You stop trying to be what someone else needs and start being what you actually are. The result isn't chaos. It's clarity. It's the difference between wearing a costume and being naked. It's the difference between performing love and experiencing it. Max Stirner died thinking he'd failed to change the world, but maybe his revolution wasn't meant for his time. Maybe it was meant for right now, when you're lying in bed at 2 a.m., wondering why nothing feels right, ready to finally stop dancing to music you never wanted to hear. Your relationship goals don't need society's approval. They never did. The only question left is, are you brave enough to find out what you actually want?